Somewhere right now, there is one computer pretending to be 1,000 different people. On the screen, there might be 40 browser windows open at once, and each one believes it is a separate person, on a separate machine, in a separate city. One of them thinks it is a woman in Chicago on a 4-year-old laptop. The one beside it thinks it is a man in Warsaw on a brand new phone. They share the same hard drive, the same processor, the same room, the same hands typing into them. And yet every single one is built to look like a stranger to the other. That is the whole promise of an anti-detect browser. And today we are going to take the promise apart, see how the illusion is built, and then see exactly where it tends to crack. What an anti-detect browser actually is. Let us start with the thing itself, stripped of the marketing. When you load a website, your normal browser quietly hands over a long list of details about you without ever asking your permission. The size of your screen, the fonts you have installed, your time zone, your language, the make of your graphics card, dozens of small facts that you never typed in. Taken together, those facts form a kind of signature, and that signature is surprisingly unique. Most people are recognizable from it the same way they are recognizable from a face. An anti-detect browser is a tool built to control that signature on purpose. Instead of leaking the truth about your machine, it lets you decide what each detail will say. It bundles all those settings into a thing called a profile, and you can run many profiles side by side, each one telling the website a different story about who and what it is. The core idea: isolated profiles. The first half of the trick is separation. Each profile is sealed off in its own little world. It has its own cookies, its own saved logins, its own history, its own cache, none of it shared with the profile next to it. As far as any website can tell, two profiles on the same computer have never met. This matters because the usual way sites link accounts is by noticing shared traces. The same cookie, the same stored token, the same fingerprint showing up across two logins is a strong signal that one hand is behind both. Isolated profiles are an attempt to cut every one of those threads so that the second account looks like it has nothing to do with the first. The second half, a spoofed fingerprint. Separation alone is not enough, because even with cleared cookies, the underlying machine still leaks the same signature every time. So the second half of the trick is to forge that signature profile by profile. This is where the long list comes in. The browser feeds each profile its own invented set of details so that it reads as a different device. It spoofs the canvas, which is the tiny invisible image a site asks your machine to draw to see how its hardware renders pixels. It spoofs the fonts you appear to have. It changes the time zones, the screen size, the language, the reported graphics card, the number of processor cores, the amount of memory. On paper, profile by profile, you get what looks like a room full of genuinely different computers owned by genuinely different people. It helps to picture how much is being faked at once. A single fingerprint can be made of dozens of separate values, some of them tiny and obscure, and a good anti-detect tool tries to set all of them rather than just the obvious few. The canvas is one of the most prized, because the way a particular graphics chip and driver combine to draw the same shape is subtly different from machine to machine, which makes it a near silent identifier. Spoof it well, and one device can wear many faces. Spoof it badly with a value that is too clean or repeats across profiles, and it becomes a beacon that links them instead. Why anyone runs 40 browsers at once? So who actually wants this? The honest answer is anyone who needs to manage a large number of separate identities and keep them from being linked. That covers a wide range of people with very different reasons, and the tool itself does not care which one is holding it. A single human with a normal life has one set of accounts, one email, one bank, a handful of logins, all clearly belonging to the same person. The work these tools exist to do is the opposite of that. It is making many accounts that each need to look like they belong to a different, unrelated person, all run from one place by one operator. The browser is the costume department for that work, and every profile is another costume. It is worth being plain about the spread of people who reach for this, because it is wider than the obvious. Some are running automation at scale on platforms that allow only one account per person. Some are testing how their own product looks to users in different countries. Some are doing things the platforms would shut down in an instant if they could see the single hand behind it all. The tool is neutral. It manufactures separation, and what the separation is for is decided entirely by the operator, not by the browser. Defender on the other side. Now turn the camera around, because none of this happens in a vacuum. On the other side of the screen is a defender, the team running the website, and their entire job is to decide whether the visitor in front of them is one real person or one operator wearing a mask. They have been doing this for a long time, and they have stopped trusting any single detail. The defender does not look at your fingerprint and ask, is this a real Chicago laptop? They cannot know that, and they do not try. Instead, they ask a quieter and far more dangerous question. Does everything this visitor is telling me actually hang together? And that question is the thread that unravels almost everything. The internal consistency problem. Here is the heart of it. A real device is not a list of independent settings. It is one physical object, and all of its details were produced by the same hardware and the same software, so they agree with each other automatically. The graphics card matches the drivers. The operating system matches the fonts that ship with it. The time zone matches the language, matches the region the connection comes from. Nobody arranges this. It is true because the machine is real. A spoof profile has to arrange all of that by hand, and that is where it bleeds. The moment one forged value contradicts another, the disguise has a seam. A profile might claim to be an Apple computer while reporting a graphics chip that Apple has never shipped. It might claim a Tokyo time zone, while its language, its fonts, and its connection all quietly say it is somewhere in Eastern Europe. Each detail on its own looks fine. It is the relationship between them that gives it away. Too perfect is its own tell. There is a second, stranger problem, and it surprises people. Real machines are messy. They carry old fonts from software installed years ago, screen sizes that come from odd hardware, half-finished updates, little inconsistencies that accumulate over a real life. A forged profile is often suspiciously clean. A tidy set of round, common, default values with none of the wear that a genuine device picks up. So the defender learns to be suspicious of perfection. A fingerprint that is too smooth, too generic, too obviously assembled from the most popular options stands out exactly because real ones never look like that. And the opposite extreme is just as bad. A combination that is technically possible but vanishingly rare. A phone that has never existed paired with a desktop screen marks the visitor not as a person but as a thing that was built. The impossible combination, it gets sharper than rare. Some combinations are not just unusual, they are flatly impossible, and those are the cleanest catches of all. A touchscreen reported on a device whose entire profile says it has no touch hardware. A mobile browser claiming a screen larger than any phone has ever had. A set of fonts that simply cannot coexist on the operating system the profile insists it is running. The defender keeps quiet lists of these contradictions, the pairings that no honest machine would ever produce. They do not need to prove who the visitor is. They only need to prove that this particular visitor cannot be what it claims, and one impossible pairing is enough to do it. And the operator usually cannot see the list. That is the quiet cruelty of it. The contradictions that matter are the ones the defender has noticed and the operator has not. The small pairings that look harmless from the inside and damning from the outside. You can polish the values you know about for weeks and still ship a seam you never knew was a seam, because the rule that catches it lives on the other side of the glass, where you are not allowed to look. What the profile does, not what it claims. Even a flawless fingerprint runs into the last and hardest wall, which is behavior. A fingerprint describes a machine sitting still. The moment the profile starts doing things, moving, typing, clicking, scrolling, pausing, it starts producing a second signature that is much harder to fake because it comes from how a human actually moves. Real people are slow and uneven. They hesitate, they misclick, they read, they drift the cursor in lazy curves. An operation running 40 profiles tends to move through all of them with the same rhythm, the same timing, the same paths, because the same hand or the same script is driving everyone. 40 different faces that all blink at the same instant are not 40 people. They are one puppeteer, and the strings show in the timing, the linkage across profiles, and that points at the deepest weakness of the whole approach. Each profile can be perfect on its own, and still be betrayed by its neighbors. The disguise has to hold not just for one identity, but for all of them at once, and it has to hold against a defender who is allowed to look at the whole crowd, not just one face in it. The same login times, the same sequence of actions, the same proxies reused across supposedly unrelated accounts, the same small habit repeated identically 40 times over. One profile is a story. 40 profiles running in lockstep is the same story told 40 times, and the repetition is louder than any single fingerprint is convincing. The defender only needs one crack. This is the asymmetry that defines the whole contest. The operator has to get everything right. Every value consistent with every other value, across every profile, across every session, across behavior and timing and connection, all at once and without slipping. One flaw anywhere in that wall is a way in. The defender does not carry that burden. They are not trying to build a perfect anything. They are hunting for a single seam, one contradiction, one impossible pairing, one shared habit, one moment where the mask does not match the face behind it. The operator must be perfect everywhere. The defender only has to be lucky once, and they get to look thousands of times. Why the gap keeps widening, and the gap grows with scale, which is the cruel part for the operator. Faking one identity convincingly is genuinely hard, but it is possible, with enough care and enough patience poured into a single profile. The trouble is that one identity is never the point. The entire reason these tools exist is to run many. Every profile you add is another full set of details that must be internally consistent and consistent with all the others. Another behavior pattern that must not echo the rest. Another thread the defender can pull. The work does not add up, it multiplies. Each new mask makes the whole collection a little easier to catch, not harder, because it gives the watcher one more chance to find the seam that ties them all back to one room. The asymmetry, one more time. So we end where this channel began. Faking one human is hard. You can pour real effort into a single profile and make it convincing for a while. But the defender is patient. The contradictions are many, and the truth of the machine keeps leaking out from underneath the costume in ways the operator cannot fully see. Faking thousands is harder, and it gets harder with every one you add. The math runs against the mask. The operator has to win everywhere, every time, on every profile at once. The defender only has to find one crack, and across a crowd of disguises, all run from a single room, there is almost always a crack to find. And if this is the kind of thing you want to understand from the inside, subscribe and follow the rabbit hole with us. We take the systems that quietly run the modern web and pull them apart one at a time. No products, no pitch, just the machinery. Next time we follow the rush. How a small army of bots can reach a checkout page faster than any human ever could. Snatch the limited sneakers and the front row tickets before the page even finishes loading. And how the stores try to slow them back down. That is how sneaker and ticket bots beat everyone to checkout. And it is the next door down the hole.